ready when we finish the presentation, so we will have a little discussion with all the speakers. I'm really delighted to introduce the next speakers. They're going to do it together. And it's something that we have been mentioning before, the importance of the connection between large companies and the emerging designer makers that are actually disrupting the way we do things. This is a very interesting collaboration. I know both of you for a long time. We have with us Luis Baldez from HP Solutions, Partners Lead for 3D printing business. Together, they're going to be like doing this back and forward with Bernat Cuní, who is a designer maker, and he's being focused on 3D printing, especially through his platform Cunicode. So please, Luis, Bernat.
Sí, me siento ahí ya. I sit here.
Ready? Yeah? 2.4%. 2.4% is the average increase in obesity when a Walmart supermarket comes to your town. That was one of the fun facts that I learned when I came to prepare for this talk, and it speaks to the impact that retail has on society, and Walmart in general, as being one of the biggest retailers, really has. So retail is just a huge industry. You know, it's like everywhere you look, it's where most of the consumer goods are being sold at. The thing is that retail is going through some tough times. It has going through several transformations in the last 10, 20 years. So I'm going to quote here a very famous entrepreneur that said, "Everybody has a plan until they get hit." That's Mike Tyson. So when internet came on board, they got the first hit. Bam. All of a sudden, people didn't have to go to stores to buy. They could do everything online. So you think that's not significant, but actually if you look at the market sizes, e-commerce already makes up for 7.5% of the total goods sold, and it's growing very fast. When the retailers were still dizzy, they got another hit. Bang, bang. And that was when mobile came and took it to the next level. So not only they were doing through internet, they were also buying from their mobile devices, tablets, smartphones, and actually half of the traffic that retailers have go through mobile devices today. And a lot of the purchases are also coming from there. What happened? Stores pay the price. So that's not an easy situation. A lot of the companies that had to invest in an online presence did not make the investments in the right time, and they just failed and went out of business. Home Depot itself, they spent $1 billion in just 1 year to improve their online presence, and they're still catching up. So this is what disruption looks like. So, okay, on this side, you have Walmart, which is a huge company. It's one of the largest companies in the world. 2.3 million people working on it. It's the largest private employer in the world. Lots of stores, and you can see the revenue numbers. It's just amazing. On the other hand, you have Amazon, who have virtually no stores, 10% of the people, but the market cap is way bigger. Oops, too much, sorry. It's way bigger. So the key questions that executives are doing from the C-level to the shop floor, to that lady that is weighing your bananas before you pay, that's the key question, is how do we win at the crossroads between digital and physical? Well, guess what? That crossroad is going to get even more complicated now with 3D printing. So as you know, everybody has been talking about it the whole day. So it's a simple technology. You put in a 3D file, you press a button, and then you get a part on the other side. Kind of simplifying here, because I'm a great theoretical of the whole thing. Bernat is a practical guy. But essentially by doing that, there's no setup times. Everything is cheaper, everything is faster, everything is a lot better. And it lives right there at the edge between the digital and the physical world. So today I'm going to talk a little bit more about how 3D printing is coming to a store near you and what it means in terms of solving pain points and also opening up new business opportunities. So the first big point that I want to make is that 3D printing is not going to replace mass production. It has its place. So if you look at this is a curve showing the beginning of the product development cycle. When you're just starting to sell products and you don't know how many you're going to do, digital is a good option there. The second option is more towards the end of the product when you don't have enough scale yet, you're about to obsolete the product, and mass production is not the option. So in both cases, digital is already very competitive. In the middle there, the break-even point, the number of units that you have to make to be economically viable, is also increasing. So today it's maybe 50 units. Next year it's going to be 500, maybe 50,000, and it will go over and over. No? So creating new products, it's a tough thing. You have to innovate. You have to talk to customers. You need to know what they want, and then you design, you prototype, and then you launch the product. So for retailers, that is a big pain because they know that time is money, but for them, space is money as well. So if the product is not successful, they end up with huge pictures like this. Lots of boxes laying around waiting for our customers to come. There's no easy solution to that except doing promotions. So there's quite many promotions everywhere. They can only do promotions up to a point because otherwise they just start devaluing the brand. So it's not really a good option. And that's the way they have to get rid of inventory. Now, when you're going digital, things get simplified. So it has been done in other industries before. So we know the example quite well of Amazon, that when you buy a book online, it says it's in stock, but it's not really. It's waiting for you to pay, collect their money, and then they print and send it to you. So they have no inventory at all. And that has happened also in the music industry, with the movie industry, and maybe now with the fashion industry, with our colleague who just spoke earlier. So in the end, the supply chain is a big pain for all these people, and digital manufacturing can really help with that. That part is talking about the problems. I like to talk more about the new business opportunities. So this is some consultants that made an estimation about how much final products can be 3D printed. So there's some arguments here about who's going to win and how many parts that's going to be. But in general, the slope is always positive, and they're talking about between 2 or 5 or 10% of products being 3D printed. Okay? That's quite a huge number, and if you do the percentage of the market of that, it means that retail will become by far the biggest market for 3D printing technology. You just can't ignore that. Now, what do people want to 3D print? So we actually know the answer to that. We've asked around quite a lot of people, and this is what they responded. So quite many people want to do interior decoration, some seasonal items, jewelry, and fashion and tech accessories. So we also had the fashion example here, which was very good. Tech accessory for GoPros and things like that, that's also very good. The one thing you should notice here is that if you're doing digital, you have a much more scaled production. So instead of doing seasonal items like once in a year for Christmas, you can do Christmas, you can do summer vacations, you can do Father's Day, you can do Dog's Day, and it's all economically viable. If you take that to the next level, you can do one single product for every single day of the year. And that's all about mass customization. You try to read a customer's mind, know exactly what you want, and you build something specifically for him. The other thing that you see on the pictures here is that some of these geometries cannot really be done any other way. So people really like that. They like to see things that nobody else has, and they're willing to pay up to 10 times more for that product versus a common standard off-the-shelf product. So when we talk about adding value and adding volume, this is what we're talking about. Here are some examples of things that are already being done today. So this is the figurine. That's a common example. There's actually a couple of stores in Barcelona doing that. They take a 3D scanning of you, and then they 3D print you in color, and they can do a figurine like that. Technology accessory is another option. Again, the growth of mobile cameras is growing a lot, and at some point you need to stitch that somewhere. So it can be an arbitrary surface or a specific object, so you need customization there as well. The last example is the one that I actually like a lot. It's about a startup in the US who's personalizing shoes. The point here is that when you go to a shoe store, you have to choose between 40 or 42. But if your feet is like 41, it's kind of like a bit too tight or a bit too loose. So What they're saying here is that your feet are unique. Why aren't your shoes? And they come up with the idea of 7 billion shoe sizes, one for each one of us. I don't get any commissions in none of these companies, so maybe I should try to charge that because I keep talking about them. The big companies are also looking at examples like that. Nike, Adidas, they're all trying to bring some level of customization of their products into the mass market. The last one that I'm going to talk about is about ketchup. So, you know, the people who like ketchup, when you open the bottle and you try to squeeze it, before the actual ketchup comes out, you get a little water. Yeah? So that's still ketchup, but people don't like it. So some students in the US looked at that problem and came up with a new cap design. They could 3D print and make it even better. So with that solution, they were able to productize a product that everybody wants at a small scale with very little investments from the retailers. So in the end, you're opening up a whole bunch of new business that you haven't thought about before. There's just one little problem that we need to overcome, and that is the design for 3D printing. So when computers were invented, people were already using typewriters, and the jump from a typewriter to a computer was pretty straightforward. Even the keyboard layout is the same. But to actually do 3D design, it takes an engineering degree and lots of experience. You need people who really understand how to translate, you know, mouse strokes and keyboards to a 3D object, and that's not trivial at all. The second thing is that a lot of the engineers out there, they've been living in a world where constraints of a mode or a machining, that's what dictates the geometry. So now with 3D printing, that's not a reality anymore. So we have people who are actually thinking about that and how do I design for 3D printing. So I'm really glad to bring here Bernat online here. He has a great motto, which is goodbye mainstream, hello unique. And he's going to talk a little bit about what is his experience as a designer, what kind of products that he's doing and selling today in a very successful way.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Good. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to share some thoughts on works and workflows and new roles for design that this kind of technology brings, and a bit of the ecosystems. At the end of the day, what we see here are computers attached to machines. That's nothing new. So what's new here is that instead of removing material, we are adding material. But why so interesting? Why so sexy, especially for a designer, for the point of view of designing things? So mainly for three things: for the variety, complexity, and accessibility. By variety, I mean that we can produce with this technology, additive manufacturing, 3D printing, we can produce 1 part or 100 parts, right? But the interesting thing is that each one of those 100 parts can be different. So their machine, HP machine, can print 100 gears at once, but each one of those 100 gears can be different. Then the next thing is complexity, right? So now we can make these tiny detailed geometries and these multi-material products, but what this enables us is to go inside the object. So not designing only the outside, the shell, but go in the material, inside. So design the material behavior. What we see here is a cellular structure that when you populate it in a volume and then you give different densities, then that volume behaves different, becomes softer or harder in different areas through designing the inside of the object. The next one is accessibility. So it's not only that we can put a machine in the desktop of someone, a machine that makes things, but we give access to industrial equipment through platforms and service bureaus like Shapeways and others, that anyone can access this huge machinery, industrial equipment, to print one thing without owning it, just using it. So now I'm going to show you some examples of work that I've done trying to explore these benefits. The first one is when, with all these benefits, there's this opportunity for the consumer to become a creator, to be part of the design process. So that project, I did it some time ago. It's called One Coffee Cup a Day. And here what I did is, these are 3D printed in ceramics, coffee cups. And here the idea was to think, how is it possible to reduce the time from idea to a commercially available product to 24 hours? So it's possible to have an idea in the morning, design it in the afternoon, and have it commercially available worldwide on the evening, and it's possible. So actually, the caps is the less interesting thing here. The interesting is that it's possible. We have the ecosystem to do that. And of course, what's the next step? So if I can design one coffee cup every day, can anybody design one coffee cup every click, every second, right? So then this is a collaboration with a company. It's called uformit.com. And through generative design, you offer this kind of different textures and different options to the user to co-design the object. So you set the parameters, and the user can choose. So that's another one. Also, a set of tableware designed in 3D printed in ceramics. And here, then you suddenly you design one thing, but you have thousands of possibilities. So this also brings another challenge to the design process. So you don't design objects, but you design systems. You need to design in a way that all those thousands of possibilities, they are like ergonomically sound, they are functional, they are fabricatable, right? So it's another way of designing. So another thing that I like to explore is the digital craftsmanship, right? So if we have machines that can make unique things, this means that we can make unique things for unique people, right? So that's a project that I did. It's called Crayon Creatures. And here what I was doing is turning children drawings into figurines, 3D printing, right? So that's a giraffe, a sun, that's a hamster on a speedboat. Anyway, so it's all this process of taking something unique and designing for a single person, right? But the most interesting here is the ecosystem where this thing lives, right? So we have this web platform where somebody comes, places an order, sends a drawing. I take the drawing, I design it, and then I send it to a 3D printing service bureau, in this case, Shapeways. They fabricate it and send it straight to the customer. And that's fantastic. That's fantastic because I can focus on what I know, which is design. I'm not good at printing things. I'm not good at packing. I'm good at designing. And that's what this ecosystem and more ecosystems that they are building right now, this is what enables. And this is kind of interesting because there's this that's why I was saying digital craftsmanship, right? So suddenly I'm doing something based on my skills for a single person. That's very, very craftsman, but it's ultra digital and global. So what's the next step? And I'm finishing now. So what about apps that makes things? So with Crayon Creatures, it's good, it's nice, but there's a bottleneck, which is me. I need to design the things, right? So what about if we automate not only the fabrication, but also the designing? So this is a project that I'm heavily involved now. I have a booth there, so you can go and check it. It's called Nice Trails, and it's an app to turn GPS tracks when you go out in the mountain, climbing, hiking, running, and turn them into a physical product, a trophy, right? So it lives on the internet. It's a website, and then that's the product that you get. And everything is automated, right? So if there's no order, this is like a Tamagotchi that lives in the internet, that nothing happens if there's no order. And if suddenly there's 100 orders, it generates, it sends them to production, and they produce it and send it to the customer. Okay, the next thing. So the next thing is that I do feel that there's an abundance of hardware, and there's still many, many, many things to be done in hardware. The things that HP is doing is amazing. They go to the box cell level. So there's a lot of job to be done in hardware. But there's a scarcity of content. There's no content. There's no apps. There's no software to design this multi-materiality. And if there's a scarcity, there's an opportunity there. Thank you.
Yep. So pretty cool stuff, huh? So to wrap up here, the key message that I have for you is that 3D printing is really coming to a store near each one of you. And it's coming faster than you think. There's some key drivers here for the growth of this technology coming near to you. One of them is speed, quality, cost. So you need to break that and that 3 basic vectors to really jump up to the front line. New materials are coming up. Color, I mean, look around you. Everything you look around, except the bench that you are, everything else is color. You need color, and you need new capabilities, and design electronics, and design with other materials that you haven't thought about. So what I'm going to share with you is now, because this is a conference about the needs, but also about the solutions, so I'm going to give you some hints, if you're a retailer, on the things you can do next week after you go back to your office, after Sunch 1. Here's some ideas. The first one is to bring the 3D printer to your store. 3D printing is actually quite engaging. If you see the machine working, people are just watching at it, and they can actually feel part of the product development because they're building something for you. So I went to a supermarket in the US, and I realized that the basic attraction of the whole supermarket are not the products. It was a big aquarium that they put in the middle of the thing full of fish. And the insight for me is that in the end, it's all about traffic. So nowadays, to buy things, you can go online and you double click, and it's way more convenient. If you decide to go to a store, you want to be entertained. You want to be amused. You want to have an experience. It's not about showing products, about how you feel about them. So adding a 3D printer is one idea that can really drive traffic. The second one is actually having the people interact with the printer in the form of a kiosk maybe. So even today, at the end of digital photography, it's going to go away. We all know that. But digital kiosks are still a major source of traffic in all major retailers. There's a lot of revenue behind that. And there are other opportunities too. I think there's going to be new product categories. So you've seen the kind of stuff that Bernat does. Doesn't really fit into, is it a toy? Is it an accessory? Is it a fashion? It doesn't really fit anywhere. So I think all these new categories will come up. And you end up also building new relationships. If you look at the slides that he showed about the ecosystem, it's not about one company designing products for a customer that buys. There are like 5 or 6, 7 people in that slide. So there's one creator, there's one that prints, one that tells what he wants, and the other one that sells. And the last one to me is one of the critical ones about content ownership. So if you're really going after mass customization, I need to know exactly what you like, because the jamon that you like is not the same jamon that he likes, and your shape is not the shape as that one. So you need to have a good way to capture that. And the best way to do that is face-to-face. So if you put 3D scanners and other forms of capturing data, that's the new currency in the digital world. So I started with this quote by Mike Tyson that said, everybody has a plan until they get hit. He also had another quote, which is about perseverance and endurance can make anything work for you. So that's why I'm here. It's to add value, add volume, and keep reinventing. Thank you.